Hello, and welcome to a video presentation on adding and subtracting decimals. Here's what you'll learn: how to add and subtract numbers that have decimals. Do you remember how to add and subtract integers? Do you remember using SSDD? Well, we add and subtract decimals in the same way we add and subtract integers. So, if you aren't familiar with adding and subtracting integers, or my use of the method SSDD, you may want to view my lessons titled Adding Integers and Subtracting Integers first. Adding and subtracting decimals is a simple four-step process. Step 1. Line up the decimals for each number, not their digits. Step 2. Fill any gaps in the decimal places with zeros. Step 3. Ignore the decimals and add or subtract the numbers as you normally would. Step 4. Bring the decimal point straight down into your answer. Let's take a look at a few examples. Let's add 5.57 and 12.5 together. Let's start by writing down the problem, remembering to line up the decimals, not the digits. When we do that, it should look like this: 5.57 plus 12.5 with the decimals all nicely lined up. Now we're going to fill gaps in the decimal places with zeros. There is one gap to fill in our problem, and it's right after the 5 in 12.5, so we'll put a 0 in there. Now ignore the decimals and just add these numbers as you normally would. Starting on the far right, 7 plus 0 is 7. 5 plus 5 is 10, so we'll put down the 0 and carry 1. 1 plus 5 is 6, plus 2 more is 8, and we'll bring down the last 1. Now bring the decimal point straight down into your answer, just like that. So 5.57 plus 12.5 is 18.07. Now let's add 11 and 3.734 together. Now let's start by writing down the problem, remembering to line up the decimals and not the digits. We'll start to write this down, but oh wait, 11 doesn't appear to have a decimal. How am I going to line up the decimals? Well, remember, every number does in fact have a decimal. So if you don't see one, you place one at the end of the number. So now we can line up our decimals. The problem will look like this: 11 plus 3.734. The decimals are all lined up. Now we're going to fill gaps in the decimal places with zeros. I only have 3 gaps here, and they're all after the 11, so I'll put 3 zeros right after 11. Just like that. Now ignore the decimals and add these numbers as you normally would. Starting on the right, 0 plus 4 is 4, 0 plus 3 is 3, 0 plus 7 is 7, 1 plus 3 is 4, and we bring down the last 1. Now bring the decimal point straight down into your answer, just like that. So 11 plus 3.734 is 14.734. Now let's add two negative numbers together: negative 6.93 and negative 14.7. Again, start by writing down the problem, remembering to line up the decimals and not the digits. So it should look like this: negative 6.93 plus a negative 14.7. Now we're going to fill gaps in the decimal places with zeros. We only have one gap. It's right after the 7 in the 14.7, so we'll put a 0 in there. Now remember, when we add numbers with the same sign, SSDD tells us we're going to find the sum. Even though they're two negative numbers, we're going to add them together. So ignore those signs and add them as you normally would. Starting on the right, 3 plus 0 is 3. 9 plus 7 is 16, so we'll write down a 6 and carry 1. 1 plus 6 is 7, plus 4 more is 11, so write down the 1 and carry 1. And finally, 1 plus 1 is 2. Now, ignoring the signs, our answer is going to take the sign of the larger number. So which number is larger, 14.7 if you ignore the sign, or 6.93? Obviously 14.7 is a bigger number, so our answer is going to end up taking that sign and be a negative answer. Now bring the decimal down into your answer as well, just like that. And negative 6.93 plus negative 14.7 is negative 21.63. Now let's try some subtraction problems. 24.12 minus 9.3. Same thing to start. Write down the problem, remembering to line up the decimals and not the digits. So it looks like this. 24.12 minus 9.3. Fill gaps in the decimal places with zeros. We only have one gap. Put a 0 in there. And since we're subtracting a smaller positive number from a larger positive number, there's really no need to convert this problem to addition and use SSDD. We can just subtract as you normally would. So starting on the right side, 2 minus 0 is 2. 1 minus 3 I can't do without borrowing, so I'll borrow 1 from the 4 and make the 1 an 11. So now we've got 11 minus 3, that gives me 8. 3 minus 9, can't do, got to borrow from the 2, so the 2 becomes a 1 and the 3 becomes a 13. So 13 minus 9 is 4, and then the final 1 comes down. Finally, bring down the decimal, just like that. Then 24.12 minus 9.3 is 14.82. Let's do another one. 5.25 minus a negative 8.222. Let's start by writing the problem down, remembering to line up the decimals, not the digits. So it should look like this. 5.25 minus a negative 8.222. Fill gaps in the decimal places with zeros. There's only one gap to put a 0 in. There we go. Now, since we're subtracting a negative number from a positive number, it'll be easier to convert the problem to addition. Then we can use SSDD. Now, to change from subtraction to addition, the first thing we do is just change the operation from subtraction to addition. But there's one more step. Don't forget to change the sign on the next number as well. So negative 8.222 becomes positive 8.222. Now we have a much simpler problem. We find that adding two positive numbers together will get us the same answer as our subtraction problem did. So 0 plus 2 is 2, 5 plus 2 is 7, 2 plus 2 is 4, 5 plus 8 is 13. Now bring the decimal point down into our answer, just like that. And 5.25 minus a negative 8.222 is 13.472. Let's wrap this all up with a word problem now. Between December 30th, 2005 and July 4th, 2008, the price of a barrel of oil increased from $61.04 to $145.29 per barrel. How much did the price increase during this period of time? Since we want to know how much the price increased, we need to find the difference between these numbers. So we take the larger number, $145.29, and subtract the smaller number, $61.04. We set the problem up just like this with the decimals lined up. Now subtract. 9 minus 4 is 5. 2 minus 0 is 2. 5 minus 1 is 4. 4 minus 6 I can't do, so I'm going to borrow that 1 and turn the 4 into a 14. 14 minus 6 is 8. We bring the decimal down into our answer. And between December 30th, 2005 and July 4th, 2008, the price of a barrel of oil increased by $84.25. And there you have it. Congratulations! You've learned how to add and subtract numbers that have decimals.